what's up, it's Kiki, and we're back with a new video, and today we are going to be analyzing Andrew Tate in a biblical way. So let's just hop right into it. Also, I still don't know where to look for the camera, because I know some people who look at, like, the camera, and then some people who just look at the screen. I kind of like the screen one better because, I feel like I'm talking to someone. Yes, so like I said, we're going to be kind of analyzing Andrew Tate because anybody who I'm going to defend, it's God. So we're going to be getting into a lot of different things. We're going to be getting into the religions he used to be in, hidden ego, which is ungodly, and him abusing God's name. And using God in the wrong context, leading people the wrong type of image of God. And then we're going to be going through his history, and then we're going to be doing kind of a behavioral analysis. So again, my overall consensus is Andrew Tate is not godly. He is not a follower of Christ. And the Bible says we can basically see the people based off of their fruit, based off of their actions, based off of the words that come out of their mouth. Maybe some Christians are going to be writing down in the comments oh, then why are you calling him out? We're supposed to give people grace, and I'm doing this because of the slander that he has caused God, and making people have the wrong image of God, and saying one thing and not doing another. I'm doing this to clear up the fact that he is not one to be followed. He is not a God, and it just makes me really upset that, he's using God in the wrong context. And on top of that, he's doing all these horrible things, but yet people are looking up to him. I mean, yes, we do live in a sinful world, especially the USA. Christians who are, idolizing him, who do like him, who do like the things he says, because he's very convincing. Just like the enemy is very manipulative, deceptive. We need to watch out for this. So that's what we're doing today. So the first one, we're going to be going through the religion. So he was first atheist, then he was Christian, and then he became Muslim. As far as today's time and this year or late last year, I believe he's still along the lines of he knows God is real. He had an interview with Candace Owens. I'll put it here. And so, along the lines, he said that he does believe in God and he did feel God's presence when he was going, he was traveling somewhere, and then he was talking to Candace, and she was just oh, I'm sorry, you're not a Christian anymore. And he was just yeah, I felt God's presence when I traveled to someone's easy, because he does believe in it, but yet he believes in a false version of it, because the things that he's doing, the things that he's saying is not alignment with God. So I think he just likes the idea of God, because if you feel God's presence and you know that he's real, how can you not obey him? That's just kind of saying, to your spouse, oh, I love you, but you never talk to them, you hurt them, and you do all these things that just don't make sense, and it's not really love. What it is just, word vomit, and it's just words coming out with no meaning. Anyway, so then, we're gonna get into, sorry, I also have my laptop behind me, so if you see, me looking back, that's why. So when you look at his pride and ego, that is the top one sign that he is not in alignment with God. And I'm saying this to the fact because a lot of people like him based off of his pride and ego, because they think it's confidence. Let me tell you, there's something different than having confidence and then having pride and ego, because confidence, it doesn't really come from you. What it comes from is the fact that you are secure in God, making you confident in what you are doing, in who you are. People who have pride and ego is because they are confident in themselves. Their worth comes from themselves. Everything comes from them because they think that they hold the power. And that's exactly what he says. So basically, he always mentions how competitive he is. First of all, in the kingdom of heaven, there's no need to be competitive, because the thing is that we're all basically supposed to be competing with ourselves, with God, and make sure that we are in alignment. Who cares what other people are doing? Nobody's called to the exact same thing. Nobody's called to do the exact same thing every single day. So basically, there in the kingdom of heaven, there is no competition. And first of all brothers and sisters in Christ are looked up as equal. Even the ones who are in sin, yes, we can look at like the fact that they're working with the enemy and we're working with God. So yes, we are higher. Yes, we are more powerful because it comes from God. Because in the end, it's not really us comparing ourselves to the the sinful people. It's comparing God's holiness within us through the demonic within them. So it's really not even anything to do with us. And then he's always saying, I'm successful. He's so sure of himself. Any successful person, quote, would love me, but people below me don't. People see superiority and he sees superiority himself and he exalts himself, just like, but yet you're never content with it because you're always competing with them. Like, how content can a person be when they're always competing, always doing something? And it's just like, we'll get into the other stuff. Hold on. And he belittles people in passive, manipulative ways that people don't actually call him out, and people don't actually ever say anything, because the thing is that he's so convincing, and I'm gonna say it, narcissistic, and I'll get into that in the behavioral analysis, because he is just passive, manipulative in everything. Like, I've been through many abusive relationships. My parents were narcissists. That's another testimony that I'll get into, and but anyway, these are all aligning with this manipulative, self-seeking, and we'll just go into it. Hold on. And then, so losers and winners. He addresses people as losers and winners. I'm handsome and accomplished. I rely on myself to fix everything. Competence for him is more important than the truth, and he would rather be delusional than and winning than actually hear the truth. He actually met with a therapist. I'll put the video here. He actually met with a therapist, literally saying that, like, he doesn't really care about the truth, and he knows that he has self-delusion to make himself win. Or like, he literally said he created a system within his own brain, and he doesn't care what anybody thinks. He justifies all that he does. And when he was incarcerated, he mentioned, when he was talking to the therapist, that the main thing, I wasn't really worried about myself. Like, I wasn't worried about myself. I knew I was gonna be fine. I mean, of course, like, there was the uncertainty of like when I was gonna get out and everything that was happening, but he was more concerned with the people who were relying on him. His basis and the way he talks is the fact that he has a savior complex, which happens in a lot of narcissists, which happens in a lot of abusive people, to the fact that they will help others to have that superiority and savior complex, to make them feel better about themselves. They are never doing it out of the kindness of their heart. It is always to a limit. It is always to get an image, a good image, that they're helpful, and that he's always saying, oh, people love me. It's always about self-praise that is not godly. And I say the truth, and people love to hear me, and they follow what I say, and he brings all the glory to himself. He never mentions how other people felt, or the perspectives of other people, and that is very hard for narcissists and psychopaths, which I'm going to get into, to do, because they have a hard time with emotions. They have a hard time with empathy. So it's really hard for them to have genuine compassion, genuine love for others, because they lack it. They can't even find it within themselves most of the time. And so people are threatened by me. He loves the fact that people are threatened by him, because he thinks that he's so upper hand. And he always says the truth, apparently. And no one has been attacked more than me, and he loves to have this self-pity now, because now that the allegations of like the sex trafficking and stuff, which we're going to get into in his history, he's just like, no one has been attacked more than me. I'm constantly, every single day, getting comments and stuff. Again, like, it's always about him. He always brings it back to him. He never like in all the interviews that I've seen, I've never seen him actually have genuine empathy for somebody else's situation. And you know why? It's because a lot of the times in his interview, especially in the one with the therapist, he keeps mentioning the fact that that he's just like, I don't believe in sadness, I don't believe in that, I built a system within my mind, and I don't believe in depression, and I just keep going. And like, that's just even lacking empathy and compassion within himself. And so he's unable to do it with others. He literally said, for like, he got a hypothetical situation, and he was just like, if a person was sad and depressed, he literally said, I do not care. I do not care if you're sad or depressed. So it's just like, how can it, like, it just doesn't make sense. Now we're gonna get into the abusing God Callum. What the heck? But okay, so abusing God. He says God all the time, and he's always just like, he uses God to win basically political and argumentative statements, which a lot of celebrities do, who or people in the media use, because they just figure that it sounds good. And, of course, if they don't say Jesus, then, it sounds even better, because people are really open to the idea of God, because God can mean a whole different things. But when you bring up the fact that Jesus is the Son of God and that type of faith, then it's just like, oh my gosh, like, we can't even bring that up. And then people get mad. But the thing is that if you say it in the right context, it can make you sound pretty educated, and that's taking advantage of God. And it's really hard, because the thing is that actually, thank you, Holy Spirit, because I remember when I was watching the video with Candace and Andrew. Candace was like, yeah, I know, it's crazy, because America, a lot of people are like, giving off the wrong impression of God. And he was just like, yeah, because when I went to go and visit this place, I mean, like, I felt the presence of God. First of all, God is not all about presence. First of all, the thing is that beyond presence, we're supposed to believe in him anyway. And I know a lot of people are just like, well, I can't see him, well, then he can't be a God, and all that stuff, which is ridiculous. Anyway, so then when, I think about that comment, it's just like, but yet, what kind of version of God are you showing? So you're verbally stating that you felt the presence of God, that you do believe in him, that he is real, and then yet you're complaining that America shows him wrong, but yet you completely show him wrong, Andrew Tate, because I just don't get it. I don't get it, because it's hypocritical. You're commenting on how America shows the version of God, but yet look at all the things that you keep doing. And then, so no signs of praise or worship. Never have I heard him like say praise God, just always in the context of God's gonna help him, or God, like, thank God, or all that stuff. But like, that's emptiness. Like, it's just words with no meaning. And I believe what he says, I believe what I want, and I design the system in my own head, like I mentioned before. Like, it's all about I did this, I made myself all this money. First of all, we already know that the Bible says, do not worship and do not cling on to the materials of this world. Like, what he's doing, and we'll get into the history of it, but it's all about money. It's all about money and fame and getting up there. Nowhere is it about praising God. Nowhere is it about having good morals. It's all about superiority and this toxic male complex, which we'll get into. Um, and I don't believe I don't believe in what takes away from my power. So that's another statement that is just all types of wrong. So whatever doesn't benefit him, he doesn't believe in, because he needs to keep that superiority complex, narcissism, which basically makes him feel like he is better than anyone, that he is accomplishing something. Again, we'll get into that part of the behavioral analysis. I refuse to change my world, my mind. Useful is more important than the truth. He doesn't care about the truth. And if he's a Christian at all, and if he has, any type of respect for Jesus Christ, he knows that he does not have the truth. Nobody even has the full truth. Nobody is perfect. The only perfect person was Jesus Christ. I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, so, and then the other one is that, yeah, he just doesn't care what other people think of him. And, that's a good thing. I mean, in a sense, because, in the kingdom of heaven, we're not supposed to care what other people think. We're supposed to only care what God thinks. But the thing is that he doesn't care what other people think of him because he's going to do whatever he wants. It's a different context with, when you're in relationship with Jesus Christ. Anyway, so now we're going to go on to the history. So he has Hustlers University. If you don't know what that is, it basically means that he helps out like individuals as the young as 13 who all they have to do is share controversial videos of him and then have the link to the Hustlers University site. And so then like whoever basically buys the subscription or whatever, that individual gets 48% of it. So they're basically getting profit to post controversial videos about Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate gets more publicity and he gets it without being blocked, because the thing is that he gets to basically get his face out there more, and he gets to getting his face out there more, makes him more famous, gets, his words out there more, gets people to fall into his trap of manipulation. And so then, he even says multiple times, like, a lot of people mention that, like, how can you be okay, like, exploiting these boys, or, because most of the Hustlers University is male. Like, it's not, I think it's not even, I don't even think any females are on there. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, they mentioned, like, how can you be okay exploiting them? And his answer when he was talking to the therapist was that it was going to happen anyway. How can that be okay? And then they were like, they were miserable and I helped them. Like, that is such a superiority and savior complex mind. Like, I have literally lived with an individual who didn't tell me until months after living with them that that individual was waiting for their prison sentence because they had fondled and basically harassed a girl. The case said girl, so I'm assuming it was underage. And they didn't tell me about that, but they convinced me to live with them. I was homeless at that time, and it's always about the superiority complex. It's about that they need to feel better about themselves, that they need to save you, but then at the same time they're manipulating you, and in their head they're basically just like, this person is so vulnerable, this person is going to do whatever I say, and that they were going to be exploited anyway, that I'm helping them, and we'll get into more. But anyway, it's crazy, and it's the same thing. And even just the way that they talk, it's emotionless. It's all about them, and it's always boosting themselves up. And the person that I was even living with that, convinced me to live with them, they were actually a Christian as well, which was, that's why I'm always saying on my other platforms, just because someone calls himself a Christian does not mean, and see, just because Andrew Tate says the word God does not mean that he's actually following him. I can say I'm a freaking unicorn. That doesn't mean that I'm a unicorn. What that means is that I believe I am, but just because, I believe I'm a good person doesn't mean I'm a good person in God's eyes. So, and yeah, exactly. He said that they were miserable and I helped them, which is just horrible. Andrew got money off of them sharing. And then he calls people losers. And then there was videos of him dancing with girls in bikinis and smoking all the time and wears less than boxers and just like half the time. And he curses, and like he calls we'll get into that later, but basically he calls women hoes and all this stuff, and he degrades them. And yes, in the Bible, like, men and women have different roles. Yes, women are supposed to submit to their husbands, but not into the fact that we're supposed to be basically like our man's like body slave, and that we're supposed to do whatever he tells us to do, and we're supposed to feel degraded, and that we're just supposed to be abused by male figures just because they are a male. Like, that's not being a male. That's being a demonic like male that just believes that they're the king of the world and that they won't even submit to God. Because that's already the first problem, is that men won't submit to God, so they already think that all the power is within themselves, that they can just do whatever, leaving them with no guidelines. The most godly man and the most manly man actually is the individual, it is the man who actually is submitting to God, because God gives them guidelines of what to do and what not to do, and holds them back from being prideful, egotistical, and keeps them humble, so that they are actually a kind male who respects women, and they don't have the superiority complex. And then if you know anything about narcissists, they have like this, it literally, narcissism keeps an individual from being able to see their wrong, keeps them able from repenting, not even to a God, not even to God, there is only one God. But it keeps them from just being able to see any wrong that they are doing. And you can definitely see it and he doesn't even know what he's doing is wrong. And he keeps falling into the same thing, which is sexual sin, degrading women. And, this has been going on for such a long time. But we live in a demonic world. So no wonder that he's not really like getting any like super big case on this. And they're pretty much just letting it go, saying that the Romania sex trafficking was nothing, because who actually wants to take care of the sex trafficking, issue that we have in today's society? I mean, we already have the Diddy thing going, and there's just so many things going wrong. But you know what? I've had so many testimonies of just being let down when I was sex trafficked. I had so many different problems when, DCF just dropped my case because my mother ran away. So, I mean, there's so many things just going wrong. So the fact that, I'm not even surprised that this wasn't even addressed properly, because, I'm just waiting for Jesus to come, honestly. But, and then, he says he literally has to manipulate to win. In 2016, he was in the show Big Brother and got kicked off after a video was found of him slapping his ex-girlfriend and beating her with a belt, and claimed it was a kinky game. He even got her to believe that it was a kinky game. Whether or not she admitted that it was a kinky game, I mean, just knowing him and knowing his behavioral analysis already, there was some type of force, fraud, or coercion within that. Whether it was the way she said it or the way she didn't say it. Because the thing is that that's what's really tricky. Because a lot of people can say that something was consensual or something wasn't that bad. But the thing is that they could already be manipulated in their mind by that abusive individual to believe that, they wanted it or that it was consensual. But hey, maybe I wasn't even in her mind. So, who knows? But I just like to take that into account. And so rape and physical assault investigation at that time. And so he calls them dumb hoes and he laughs. And him and his brother were recruiting women for an online sex business and had a course of how to teach men to do the same. And a lot of them were basically selling their girlfriends online, and he was teaching others how to. Yeah, that's very Christian like. Are you kidding me? And so then him and his brother, were recruiting, and then had a course of how to teach others the same. Yeah, many of them were the girlfriends, and he calls them pimping hoes, and basically says that because they were already doing that and actually, there's two claims. There was one was that, a lot of them were just wanting to do it. And the other part was that he was just like, a lot of them didn't even start until I got them into it. So basically, he just thinks that he's this king selling women. And, he actually once slandered the Bible, saying that, oh, that's what they did in the old times. No, it actually wasn't even him verbally saying that. It was one person that worked for him. And so basically he was saying that, oh, yeah, I mean, that's what they did in the old times. Like, women submitted to the man. And, which is so wrong, because the thing is that you can use the Bible, but if you don't use it in the right context and with the right knowledge, you're going to abuse it, and you're going to turn people to the wrong image of God and what he allows and what he doesn't allow. And you know, some were as young as 18 and 19, and he says he likes it because he gets to show them amazing things. That's the same superiority complex that that individual who convinced me to live with him had, was that, and actually ended up abusing another lady during the time that he let me live with him. And, you know, it was the same thing. I can't wait to show her amazing things. You know, she didn't have that in her childhood. It's all about, you know, just feeling like they're the man. You know, it's you know, also he mentions that if an individual if a woman is raped, it's her fault because she shouldn't have gotten herself in that situation. So first of all, there's so many different wrong things with this statement. The fact that if a woman was raped, then it was her fault because she got herself in a bad situation. If he even knows anything about the criminal justice system, first of all, he should know that it doesn't matter what a person is wearing, what they are doing, where they are at, whatever. A person can literally be in a strip club, and that doesn't mean that it was their fault that they were raped, because the thing is that that's that other person doing the action. Because the thing is that if they initiated, first of all, it can still be illegal rape if they initiated, but they said stop at any time. So first of all, he knows nothing about the criminal justice system. All he has is all these excuses to make sure that other people are convinced that he is right. Because the thing is that demonic people say their things with such sureness, but the thing is that they're completely wrong and they have no evidence behind it. Because the thing is that only the truth comes from God. So anything that demonic people are saying, or people working in demonic spirits are saying, is the fact that they are willing to defend their case. And that's what narcissistic people do. And narcissism is a deep root, and it's also rooted in the Jezebel spirit. If you want to learn more about the Jezebel spirit, go check out my Instagram. But anyway, so, you know, he also says, I have sex with women so I can do what I want, and these girls were exploited, and that's what I do. He's totally okay with that. That's just his plain, straight out words. And, you know, he's been accused of using the lover boy, but it's also called like the Romeo, in part of how he seduces women. And no godly man would have to seduce a woman, or many women. He also still believes that, just like the Old Testament, that it's okay in today's time to have multiple girlfriends, but yet he's never settled down and gotten married. So that pretty much just says something. And then, so if you don't know what the lover boy and Romeo, it's basically that you use the boyfriend method, or you use like the love and care tactic to basically seduce a woman and manipulate a woman into being with you and obeying you and all this stuff. That is actually what my trafficker used with me, and it is what my ex did with me. And you know, it's just one of the tactics used to manipulate women and take advantage of and exploit them. Harassed women, and you know, there's actually several women in the UK that, or Russia, because the case was also in Russia, but that they basically said their testimonies. They said their testimonies of how abusive he was, the harm, the bruises that he caused them, and he threatened them. And you know, he also has this thing called the war room, which is basically that he, you know, makes a lot of men travel around so that they can get basically a training from him. They all make cheers to Andrew and like a freaking cult, which is crazy. And $5,000 it costs to go to there. They're all his fans, and how to become more like a man like him. And you know, it's all about how much you can inflict violence as a man. They literally beat each other up. One was sent to the hospital, and you know what he said? Uh, One got sent to the hospital, and he said, well, that guy pointed to the guy who fought him, the one who went to the hospital, and was just like, you're still here. And then they all started clapping and laughing while that guy's in the hospital, because that's what they do. They just beat each other up, and they try to figure out who's the manliest man. And that's not being a man. Just because, oh my gosh, I'm such a man because I can beat another guy up. That's the most demonic thing ever. and also there was a video that after like the war room and after like their celebrations, it was caught that their celebrations, because he's so manly, there was naked women in the room with multiple men. So I don't know. I don't even have to go further into that. And honestly, I don't even want to, because everything that he's doing is disgusting. And the fact that he's even bringing up God's name, like, fine, do whatever demonic stuff you want. Don't bring up God's name. Because the thing is that other people, who are innocent and, vulnerable, who actually don't know who God is and the truth of God, then they're just gonna believe it. I know so many individuals who know wrong scripture and who don't know the truth, and then they're going around telling other people, oh, God is, God is holy, God is everything, God saved me. And then the thing is that they're doing everything that God told them not to do, everything that goes against God. And so other people are like, wow, that person's really happy, or wow, that person's really successful and they have God. I want that. Then they're following, just what they are is they're following that person. They're not following God, because that person's not even following God. And so, he became Islamic, and then, he got his own bank with his own face on his money, and, names Hustlers. Now it's called the Real World. Elon Musk let him back on social media because he got taken off social media for a little bit. And then, he's saying that he never hurt women in Romania and that the sex trafficking's not true. I mean, looking at everything else that he's done, I mean, why wouldn't it be true? Um, you know, and then he says that he always, and one of the testimonies of a woman who was abused by him, she said that like, and, a lot of women have always said that, like, what he says is like, who do you belong to? One individual who was literally abused and, used to date him, like, what had this testimony, and it's really graphic, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But basically, he abused her, he raped her, and was just like, who do you belong to? And basically was like strangling her. Like, it was physical and sexual abuse to the max. And she had bruises and everything. um and so, he doesn't care that he's a bad person. He doesn't care. Like, sorry, there was a fly. But there was one like time where he was literally like, I don't care if you think I'm a bad person. You actually not wanting it makes me love it even more, which is just disgusting. And no empathy. Again, no empathy, but we're gonna get into behavioral analysis in a little bit. But anyway, so um and he said basically that it turned him on. If a person doesn't want to have it and they're struggling to get away from him, he loves it even more. And I am a man. I am a dangerous man. In 2014, one of the girls told the police. Other girls told the police. Again, nothing was really done, and he was held for 2 days. And they dropped the case. That was in 2022. And they have the text of everything where he was like, I love raping you and I'm abusive and controlling. He admits to everything. It is very, very common that narcissists know how abusive and manipulative they are, but they really don't care. They don't care at all. And then, when he got arrested, he was saying, the Matrix arrested me, the Matrix arrested me. And he's all about the Matrix. And then he says God, and he flings stuff around. So he's obviously confused about reality. And, even in the therapist that he did the interview with, he's constantly saying that, like, I make up my own reality in my mind and that I'm okay being delusional. So, I mean, how much can we, expect the truth to come out of his mouth? And then he uses the lover boy method. A lot of people already know that, followers of the Matrix, and he likes men to idolize him. So now we're going to go into the behavioral analysis. So, sorry, I have to check the time because I have a training in like half an hour. So I got to finish recording and then hop onto my training. So anyway, So, yes, first we're going to go through the narcissist. So, a narcissist has a lot of self importance, lacks empathy, reactive to feedback, lifts selves up, bring others down, and covert will have passive and mean jokes. That individual who wanted and tricked me into living with him because, he said he was a great guy. What happened is that he always made very, very inappropriate jokes. I praise my God that nothing else happened further than that. It was just a lot of it was a lot of emotional abuse. But, if I stayed there any longer, I probably would have became very everything else. But, also his father was diagnosed with a narcissist. So if we think about that in the spiritual realm, what we have to take into account is generational curses and childhood trauma. Like I said before, both my parents were narcissists. So I had to not only break the generational curse of narcissism, but I also had to heal that childhood trauma because they are very linked together and it's not like one or the other. You have to heal both. He struggles with emotions with the therapist because he always has to act one way, and if you know anything about growing up with a narcissist, you basically always have to prove yourself, but depending also on your personality, I never wanted to prove myself. I just wanted to hide from both my parents. Trying to level up and be the best and seeks to be loved and healed. That goes along with anyone who dealt with really abuse. You're always going to be seeking for that love, and so it can either turn into a lot of hurt and a lot of kind of self-infliction or hatred, or internalizing stuff, which females tend to do more, and males tend to kind of externalize that more. So that's why he's very I have to show myself off. I have to be a man. I basically have to be the man that my father wasn't. But the thing is that he actually pretty much turned into a narcissism like his father, because the thing is that like him, he has no emotions. And the one thing that is still spiritually in him is the lack of love and the lack of actual genuine care that his father never showed him. So he is not showing that either. And there's a lot of times in the interview with the therapist that he is struggling with the emotional questions and tries to disturb himself and go into an intellectualizing rather than actually having the feelings and feeling the feelings, which the therapist multiple times try to bring him back to. Stating that he knows all about himself and that I'm in control and I'm unstoppable. First of all, that's not normal to have such self-confidence and just, I know everything about myself. This is this and that. That is just what it is. It's pride and ego. And it's thinking that you know everything. And what is hidden behind pride and ego is the fact that there's a lot of self-hatred, that there's a lot of things that are unhealed, because no individual who is fully confident in themselves wouldn't be okay with saying their vulnerabilities, and wouldn't be okay saying that, hey, I'm struggling with this. That's being genuine. And that's the easiest worldly way that I can say how you know that someone is working within the kingdom of heaven. They are genuine. They are able to fully just say, all right, this is what I have going that I'm working on, because we're never going to be perfect in anything. And it's the fact that he thinks he's perfect in everything, which is not godly at all. And it's the fact that he thinks of himself as a god and he worships himself like that. And then he also has the men's conference or the men's retreats, and he wants other people to worship him. And so that already says something. And he uses young men for the hustlers universe. He is passively basically verbalizing, but not in a verbal way, that he is struggling with his past. He is struggling with generational curses. And so, he uses his mind and he uses his strength and he builds his life off of that. I totally get the fact that, both my parents were narcissists, so I had to intellectualize a lot of things. It's very hard to be in emotions when you're living with a narcissist, because your feelings are not gonna, you're constantly gonna be put in survival mode. And most of the time living with a narcissist, your survival mode is going to be intellectualizing. And so then for psychopath, it is going to be your unstable aggression, egocentric, charming, exploitive, manipulative, only focuses on win, not supernatural, superficial charm, don't talk about trauma, and bored easily, lacks skill, takes what you please, exploitation, failure to learn from mistakes. A psychopath takes advantage of others for their own benefit, very low in empathy, and can't keep verbal contracts. They are emotionally stable, meaning that they have the competence and calmness, not anxious. They are very high in emotional security, and that they will get into the same trouble over and over again because they cannot get with themselves. They cannot get genuine within themselves, knowing that they are wrong, that they need something to change. It's because they have that hurt, they have that thing within themselves that is just like, I can't rationalize with myself that I'm struggling, that I have something to work on. So they live in this alternative world that they built themselves to make themselves feel better. Because if he actually went into the fact that he is struggling with childhood trauma, that he is not perfect, and that, he always had to win his father's love, which is still in a way what he's doing now. He's avoiding the fact that he's hurt from his childhood, and he gets very uncomfortable in the video when he's talking to the therapist. Anyway, so the last bit of this behavioral analysis, and then wrapping this up in a little bit. So when the questions about a woman came up when he was talking with the therapist, came up, and his demeanor changed and his jaw clenched, he scratched his eyebrow, and when he was talking, he went like this, which means pretty much that, he was hiding some of his, I don't know why the lighting changed, but usually that means like, you're getting uncomfortable, or, you're trying to hide something. And that also happens when he's talking about emotions. He is very uncomfortable with emotions, but also he changes his demeanor, like when he usually is when women come up, because the thing is that it is different when, and so, and he loves to say that women don't like how assured I am, but they love me. And that's what a lot of, manipulative men and ones that I've lived with, they always say, but oh, women love me. I'm the catch. I'm everything. And, believes pain is beauty and drive, and yet he refuses to get sad, but pain is sadness, and psychologically frustration and anger is rooted in sadness. So he's emotionally numbs himself of emotions and sadness, causing frustration, driving him to compete and want to win. And he claims it in a passive way, which is actually hurting, and he directs it in a positive way, which would say biblically in biblical aspects, it's wrong, because his winning is about success and money, and he's in this delusion. So basically, it's a whole bunch of demonic cover-ups, because he is sad, because under pride and ego is sadness, and behind anger and frustration is sadness. So he acknowledges, he's okay saying, yes, I'm frustrated, yes, pain drives me, but he doesn't look what's actually under pain. And so then, all people are seeing is basically this strong masculine man who takes his frustration and builds it. And then now what he does is that he idolizes and he focuses daily on on money and success. And he's never actually fixing internal. What he's trying to do is avoid, healing himself, and he wants everyone not to see who he really is. He wants everyone to see his worldly success, which we know in the end, it's going to stay here down on earth, and it's not going to go with us on heaven. So what we really need to work on is, who cares if we're homeless? Who cares what the surroundings in an environment look like? Who are you as a person? Who's your soul? I mean, you know what I mean. Yeah. And he mentions he has no empathy for anyone when they are sad or depressed, and he doesn't really care, and he gets an attitude over it, leading him to lack empathy, because he pushes away many feelings that he has as a human. And so he can't relate to others. Well, he can't relate to others on a human level, and so what he does is that he lives basically on a surface level, and all he focuses on is worldly success, money, funny and seeing women in a really like derogatory and disgusting way, because he lacks actual genuine, like, you know, interactions with others, because he doesn't have empathy. And you know, if you know narcissists and psychopaths, like, they do not care about others' feelings. If they are in a relationship, the relationship is for them. They could care less about how you are feeling about what they are doing or in general. um and so they don't have to meet eye to eye, but everyone should be able to have human connection, good or bad, and not like a robot. It's, yeah, all about me. And if we were only to chat with people for our benefit, then what kind of, like, that's just exploiting people. Like, his daily interactions are just, how can I benefit myself? How can I benefit myself? And that's just plain abusive, because I don't even have to explain that more. And he mentions and admits that exploiting boys, and he just justifies himself based off of that. I don't want to resolve my fear, and then hates the word, because fear means that there's a sense of vulnerability, and he would rather distort the truth. He doesn't, like, many times in the interview with the therapist, the therapist mentions that, you know, he could have fear, and he always switches the word. Andrew always switches the word to, no, I wasn't fearful. You know, I was frustrated, or this and that. And it was just like, because the word fear pretty much has a sense of vulnerability, having empathy for others, feeling emotions. That's a sense of vulnerability which he lacks, which he feels like he can't do. But yeah, so that's what I got in this video. I just wanted to bring this up because a godly man does not do what he does. He does not contradict himself constantly. Everything here could be brought back to the Bible and just completely flipped on the other side, that it is not godly what he is doing. It is not godly what he is saying. He doesn't even, you know, try to preach and bring others to God. He tries to bring others to himself. That is demonic in the first place. You know, just how there was a lot of prophets in the Bible who, you know, just claimed to know God, but yet they were always bringing, you know, chaos, and they were always bringing, you know, things back to themselves. It was never to bring glory to God. He's always trying to bring glory to himself. The only God that he has in his life looks to be himself, and he just wants others to recognize his success. And you know, I'm definitely going to be praying for him. And you know, it's way bigger than him. It's bigger than, you know, it's spiritual. It's spiritual, that he has a lot of internal healing to do. I had a lot of internal healing to do. I still have healing to do. And I know how hard it is to break these generational curses, especially when in your family line there was a narcissist. And so not only is he dealing with the fact that he's a generational curse, he also has to deal with his childhood trauma. But again, like I said, like, he's covering it up. He's covering up his frustration, or he's covering up his pride and ego. But under that is a sad little boy that had a dismissive, narcissistic father that he never learned the right way. And who knows what other abuse he went through that he's not disclosing. So, but we know that no genuine healed person would act and talk in such ways. And so, and he keeps getting these accusations that are based in sexual sin. Pray that anyone who's watching will stop making others their God, and the only God that we will have is God and Jesus, the Son of God. And, you know, they're the only ones who can lead us the right way. Those are the morals that we are supposed to be going off of, and we are supposed to be knowing the truth, not, you know, always listening to what other people are preaching. Even pastors can get it wrong sometimes. Anyone can say it wrong sometimes. That's why we have to go and seek God ourselves, because only he can tell us the real truth, or only he can confirm the truth that another person said. But in today's society, everyone just wants to benefit from God, but nobody wants to know God, like, and have a relationship with him. So I just pray that, you know, maybe this video can bring another individual back to God, and realized that it's really common that a lot of media influencers or celebrities end up being our idols. So that's what I just hope for this video. And yeah, we'll see. This bird has been chirping all day. But anyway, so God bless you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye.